This is a Chronicle podcast, bringing you ideas in the service of medicine.
Greetings and welcome to Shear Listening Pleasure with your host, me, Neil Shear. I'm a recently retired academic dermatologist. Over my career, I have been inspired by my many colleagues and trainees who are dedicated to helping people with major life-altering skin conditions. Some people don't recognize dermatology as a real medical specialty. Oh, but is it ever? From the many stories of patients and providers, I hope we can inspire others. We will travel across Canada to delve into inspirational contributions to improve the quality of life of others. Very few specialties have as many diverse diseases as dermatology. So without any gory photos, just friendly chats, we will take you into a world behind the scenes, a world of caring, compassion, and inspiration. And of course, I want to give a very special shout out to our sponsors supporting the podcast from Amgen Canada. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
With knowledge beyond measure, discussions you will treasure. It's sheer, listening pleasure.
Just as a bit of a background, for everyone listening, it's my privilege now to be speaking with Dr. Molin, you're the head of dermatology now, Sonja, at Queen's?
Yes.
Okay. And it's a small group, a great group. Are you expanding in any way? Do you see it becoming a residency program, which I think a lot of people would say, yeah, that's a lot of work and it's not worth it?
Oh, it's a lot of work and it's absolutely worth it. So this is one of our hopes for the nearer future, I would say. We would love to grow our team a little bit, which will help with everything. And then I think we're ready to start a residency training program. We'll probably have to team up with larger universities nearby, Toronto, Ottawa, for some things that we will never be able to offer.
It is nice. I mean, you've got some great undergraduates who get into Queen's. And whether they're there because of dermatology or not, they work with people like the people in your group. They go, excuse me, I wanted to be an oncologist, but you do everything in dermatology, don't you? I want to be a dermatologist now. And sometimes it's like at the 11th hour of the CARMS match and all that stuff. But they sort of go, no, I did. And some of our best recruits, were sort of from that. They were surprised how interesting dermatology was. So I guess, listen, it's great. But I mean, it's a smallish program in terms of 1,000 students or something. It's much smaller, but it's great. It's really a very special program. And I know that some of these people ask me, they go, well, I'm thinking about this one or that one. And I go, well, Queen's is wonderful. I mean, it's a great opportunity. Just also as background, I should tell anybody who's listening that we had met before when you were a visiting professor, if you will, in Toronto a few times at least, and you gave the talk that you were supposed to give. And I remember asking you, I go, yeah, but what about this? And you were like, oh, well, here are the slides on that. And I thought, oh, this is fantastic. That was the good stuff. I'll call it the company stuff was fine, but the non-company stuff was great. So what did you build up when you were in Germany and what has changed over your move?
Yeah, I do remember that meeting. That was 2014, I believe, during my first speaker tour to Canada. And it was during that speaker tour that I fell in love with Canada and was so impressed by so many things here, which started the seed basically to make me think about moving to Canada a few years later. So yeah, in Germany, I did my dermatology training in Germany and also worked there as a specialist in dermatology and allergy over a course of several years at the University Hospital of Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. That's the city where I grew up and where I went to medical school and where I had the chance of really receiving a fantastic training. And I think after coming to Canada several times and learning about Canada and about the opportunity to potentially come to Kingston, what really interested me was the change in perspective, to get to know a new healthcare system, to see how things are done in other places of the world, not only in my hometown, in my home country. And I think I'm very lucky because I was able to get so many really new perspectives and good learning points
You're talking about the training in Germany, and I know there's a few places in the world where allergology and dermatology work together, and Germany is one of those. But the only person in Canada really that I can think who's sort of credible in that who hasn't trained in Germany is Yuka Asai, who I can see is an allergologist as well as a dermatologist. I don't even know what there is in allergy at Queen's. Are you guys doing a lot of allergy yourself for your dermatology group?
So the training is a bit different in Germany as in Canada, because in Canada it's a separate specialty, whereas in Germany it's an add-on training you do in peds or as an ENT or as a dermatologist, and I believe respirology. So I was not able to transfer all my training to Canada, but we do have a lot of patients in areas where it's very important to have a background in allergy. We do have an allergy division at Queen's that is very, very good and has an allergen exposure unit, for example. To my knowledge, there's only very few in Canada, and they do big studies and fantastic research. I have just recently started offering patch testing to our patients because one of my big areas of interest is occupational dermatology. And I think you can't do occupational dermatology without being able to offer patch testing. And this has sparked quite some interest, and we do have quite an extensive wait list for patients who need a patch test now.
So the kind of stuff that you're talking about there with the patch testing, we have some really great people in Canada spread out there. And at the general meeting that they would have every year with the Canadian Dermatology Association meeting, I don't know if you've had a chance yet to do any of those, but I remember when I was organizing those meetings and I go in the room of these people and they're so passionate. And it's not just Melanie Pratt. I mean, everybody else is equally insanely passionate about whether it's patch testing and everything. The big thing that changed over time was now people can really, on their phone, they'd be updating whatever the speaker was saying. They'd be looking on their phone and going, well, no, wait, I just looked this up on my phone. This is different and that's different. But it was all done with the love of the importance of patch testing. So I'm very excited to hear that you're going to be doing that. What a great addition to your program. Are you interacting at all with anybody else in the country in that field?
Yes, of course. I'm also quite involved in the American Contact Dermatitis Society. I think what I love about allergy and about allergy testing, particularly about patch testing, this is the only thing I'm doing at the moment, is that it is so simple, but it is so great to provide answers. Answers our patients have been waiting for. I can tell a patient after a patch test, well, you are allergic to XYZ, and here's what we're going to do. Or I can tell them, well, you're not allergic to the top 50 or top 55 allergens that we've tested. And that's what I really love about it.
When I was practicing many decades at Sunnybrook, and Joel DeKoven was, of course, our patch test guru who really was just so good at it and still is. They go through these periods where suddenly they're publishing 20 papers on something. I guess all 20 authors get to be a first author. But when I'm seeing patients there and we're reviewing the patch testing with them, I think, boy, if I was just in private practice or whatever, I wouldn't be doing this. And I have so much to offer them. Even if I don't have an answer, I've got something. The answer is I don't have an answer. But if I do have an answer, it's so powerful. And like you say, you can see it. You don't have to be a genius or anything. I can't say to the patient, I go, well, look. They go, well, what was that red spot? What was that blister? The one area that's been a disappointment, I guess, has been in drug reactions. We keep trying to do it, but it just doesn't seem to play along, nor should it. But, there are a few fixed drug eruption, yes, but others maybe not. And it's a bit disappointing. But nevertheless, that's really good. So is that a hard thing to start up then? What you've experienced to try to build it up at Queen's?
Yeah, it took a while because it is relatively resource intensive. You need help with loading the patch tests. You need room to see your patch test patients, and then you have to buy and restock allergens, and they are not cheap. So it took a while. I started basically from, I would say, almost day one when I came, trying to set it up. And then there was a little bit of a backlash thanks to the pandemic. But I think in a certain way, the pandemic has also helped me because all of a sudden, the increase in hand eczema and in occupational dermatosis was so visible that also this became obvious for the decision makers at the hospital. And then all of a sudden, last year, there was huge support and we were able to start within a few months.
Well, that's fantastic. And I know for Joel, for example, I just keep saying him because I know his stuff best, but they got a pretty good deal with the American patch testing. But then there's always these challenges about some mentality of, well, listen, this has to be proven and it can't be that, and it's experimental and whatever excuse they want to come up with. But the good news was that it didn't cost anywhere near as much as if you were just going to do it on your own to get it through the American group. Is that where you're getting it from now?
No, we're ordering from one of the manufacturers directly.
Okay, that's good. Because some of them too, things disappear and there's complications and all that stuff. But it is fun though. It is fun. And it's one of these groups, and I guess like pediatric derms are like that. I used to go to pediatric derm meetings and they were so congenial and they were so excited about their work, as they should be, but it was fun to be there. And the patch test groups were like that. They're just all so excited about it. You walk out energized, even if you say, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, this is fantastic. Yeah, it's really nice. It's a nice thing to do. Oh, I'm so glad that you're doing that. That's really great.
I enjoy it. I must say it gives me joy. I've been doing it for many, many years, and I'm so glad that I can offer this now. Also, just for my personal joy, it really is a great thing to do. And what I enjoy about it is also that my knowledge over the many years has grown, and it grows with every meeting I go to because I learn something new and I think, oh, great, never thought about this. Oh, how can I integrate this into my practice? This is an endless learning curve. That's fantastic.
It is, isn't it? And the basic science stuff, every now and then there really is some really great insight of something causing problems and other ones of making things better. So it's got that whole breadth of what's going on there. And it truly is a long-standing global tradition to do, contact dermatitis. And then the whole aspect of what goes on, and that'd be in different countries, of course, would be about what's happening to people at their work and the work environment, is the labor issues or not. And I said to Joel, I'm not touching those. If that comes up, I'm sorry, you're going to have to do it. It's a ton of paperwork. I don't want to have anything to do with it. But it is important because all the occupational health stuff is really obviously different wherever you are.
There's still a high demand, I would say, and the pandemic has showed that even further. We have created a little specialty access, a fast track access program within Kingston Health Sciences Center to allow internal people working in healthcare in all various aspects. Basically, everybody who helps keeping healthcare at the Kingston Health Sciences Center running to have a fast track access to me, to hopefully be able to receive care and stay in their workplace so that they can serve everybody else.
That's exciting to hear. Because I was thinking one of the things I was going to ask you is, what are you looking to build up and whatever? But we've already covered a few things in terms of maybe getting a residency program and sharing with that. And we did that in Toronto. We were working with Hamilton for a while, where they would go for first year, for instance, Hamilton and back and forth. And it's got pros and cons. And again, a lot of the funding was between the higher level people in our universities who would make decisions about who's going to pay what. And often we didn't even know about it. But there were all kinds of things. And then if you didn't know all the clauses, some of them said, well, yes, but if they're going to Ottawa, but they have to come back for meetings, because even virtual isn't the same, we will pay for their travel. And you go, really? Oh, yes, we'll pay for gasoline, for example. Oh, we didn't even, no one ever even told us that. So I never know, if anybody at the university tells you they've got a contract, you go, I'd like to see that. I want to see that contract so I know what there is there, because they're not going to tell you about stuff that they're going to pay for. If they know you don't know, you're not going to ask for it. They save money on it. Not that I'm cynical, but it's beyond cynical. And it's worth looking at these contracts and going, yes, I see you're doing this, but you're not doing that. And I don't even know if the people you talk to would even know what they're doing, because who knows how high up in the university they go and which bureaucrat makes those decisions. But I know when I started dermatology, I did my first year in Hamilton with Don Rosenthal and their group. Don Rosenthal was really the person you worked with. And then I moved into the Toronto program. And Joel was in London, Ontario. I mean, people have done that. It's sort of nice because you get to see different perspectives on how dermatology is practiced. It's got its bonuses, I think. For a lot of people, they're just glad to get into dermatology, so that's nice too. And so your dermatologic surgery right now is being supported from Toronto. But I mean, how many derm surgeons do you have now?
We have Dr. Dalkey coming from Toronto, and she's been coming to Kingston, I would say, at least for 3 years. And we're very lucky that we have her for many various reasons, and also very grateful. So she is our most surgeon at the moment. And I think we have a big catchment area of lots of people that we serve for. And we also have a brand new Mohs unit. So our Mohs unit was rebuilt 1 or 2 years ago. So it's really a fantastic little surgical unit. And Dr. Dalke is coming. And I mean, ultimately, our goal is to grow our team because we have so many patients that we need to serve. And we also would like to be able to train our own dermatologists at some point. So we need a bigger team. And part of the plan is to recruit more dermatological surgeons.
You know, I don't know if you heard her podcast, but Erin's podcast, she was in Kingston at the time when she was doing it virtually. You can see she was in a hotel room or whatever. And she was so excited. Every time she comes, she loves it more and more coming to Queens. She really, really enjoys it. I mean, she's very thoughtful. And to see that true raw enthusiasm was really special. It really was impactful. I mean, I could see, and a lot of people, you know, they do Mohs surgery, they're doing a rotation in it. And then they sort of say, it was fantastic. It was like, again, there's a core truth to what Mohs surgery does. And it makes other sort of ways of treating skin cancers or diagnosing them, like you're not doing it right. It's like you're talking about patch testing. And I was talking to Christian Murray recently, and I asked him, I said, so what's new in Mohs surgery in the last 5 years? And he's a man of few words. He said, nothing. And I thought, okay, because I feel like I must have missed some advances. Everything is moving so quickly that I must have missed some advances. But no, Mohs surgery is Mohs surgery. But the patients are lucky to be able to get it. And it's just been a battle, but it's so great. I'm so glad that she does that. So she's got her St. Joe's experience in Toronto as well as there, which is really, yeah, it's really nice.
We're really grateful. And it's very nice to see that she likes to come to Kingston. We appreciate it. And I mean, our patients love her. So there's not much more I can say. And I think Mohs is great because, again, it's so patient focused. You know, as a patient, you walk in, you get your Mohs surgery done, and by the end of the day, you can go home and you don't have to worry about your skin cancer anymore because, you know, dealt with, it's removed, you're okay. And this is so rewarding for everybody that's involved.
So what is your actual sort of catchment area? I mean, is there a way to describe it in terms of the people you see for second opinions, or are they sent by dermatologists from elsewhere? Because you are a pretty isolated area yourself. I mean, you've got the lake on one side, but then you've got a lot around you.
I would say people, if I could describe it in a way, saying people drive up to 2 hours to see us. That's what I have noted.
See, in Toronto, we spent 2 hours finding a parking spot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of the same thing. You know, with the virtual stuff, I have to say, when I was doing virtual stuff at the end of my time there, it really struck me. I used to do stuff through the government program when I was seeing people who are out of town. But the virtual was better because people, often the patient is old, sick, they're diabetic, they're on dialysis. For them to come outside of Toronto, spend 2 hours getting there, and truly half an hour or more trying to find a parking spot, waiting, going back, when I could just tell them on the phone, yeah, keep using whatever you're using. You know, it was really interesting to see. But obviously, people love taking pictures and sending them to you. I don't think I've ever seen a good picture ever that anybody took, even a dermatologist. They just don't do well on the computer. You say, well, I took a picture of this. And you go, yes, but it sucks. It's terrible.
I find that the quality of the pictures has definitely improved over the pandemic. So most people, particularly not our patients, were not used to taking pictures of their skin conditions, and they didn't know what we were looking for in a picture. But I have a feeling the more virtual phone picture sending we've done, the better we all have become at this. And nowadays I receive only excellent pictures from my patients, where I always think, oh my goodness, that's a really good picture. How did you do that? Couldn't have done it better myself.
Oh, that's really good. That's good to hear. We should get that published. I mean, people tried that years ago. Actually, there was one paper once, and there was a photographer showed the same thing, the same condition, under slightly different conditions. So the same disease, but slightly different conditions of what he was using on his camera. And it looked like anything. I mean, you start off, it looks like a pizza. Other times you don't know. And then one of them, you go, oh, it's that. And you say, no, wrong. That's a disease, but you didn't notice that they had a skin of color because the way the lighting was, you couldn't tell. Anyways, it has its challenges. So you're doing medical dermatology, you're doing patch testing, got the surgery thing going. and educational program. What's missing? What's coming up?
So one of the things that we have started very recently, a few years ago, is the clinical trials. I have always done clinical trials, and I've been investigating clinical trials since day one in residency almost, sub-investigator and later principal investigator. And I think this is an important part of clinical practice in dermatology for many reasons. It's interesting, but it's also very good to offer patients innovative treatments and more options for care. And we have started and we're expanding. So we're constantly expanding and learning. Started from scratch. It was very different from the center where I came from, where we had a whole little study center with a team of several nurses and coordinators and several PIs and several residents. So this was very different here, but I think we're making good progress.
That's good. So I was going to ask you about it a bit because Melinda Goodrum, she's still on your faculty?
Yes, associated with family medicine, Queens. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's good. And so is it your faculty or the trialists?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's great. I mean, it is good for lots of reasons, but it is nice to be in touch. So these would be mostly industry trials for up and coming indications and different drugs and that sort of stuff.
Yes.
And what about pediatrics? How do you deal with pediatric stuff?
Yeah, so we don't have a pediatric dermatologist on the team. That would be one of my future hopes too. We do see a lot of kids. Miriam Weinstein was coming to Kingston to see patients in the peds department. With the pandemic, this has changed a little bit. So we all see a lot of kids. And I have noticed that I myself see more kids, particularly with inflammatory skin diseases, more kids than ever. For example, kids with hand eczema. I've always seen so many patients with hand eczema, but never so many kids. And right now, we're specializing in their care as much as we can as dermatologists.
And do you have like a special clinic time for the pediatric ones? And ones who are in hospital,
No.
of course, that's a challenge too. But it's certainly a big part of dermatology. And I know I used to do a lot of long-term care before I retired, was looking after veterans at hospital at Sunnybrook. And it was interesting and challenging, but it was very impactful for them to have somebody come and make an actual diagnosis and give them some sort of therapeutic guidelines. Do you also get to do some long-term care?
Only occasional, I would say. What we do quite a bit is OTN consults. I find that this is a very, very useful way, allowing people in the community or specialists from other specialties and primary care providers to approach us and send us pictures. And I think with this, we're able to serve quite a number of peripheral institutions.
That's amazing. I mean, really, when you think of some of the programs, they're different in their own way. And this is good timing for me. Just to hear this is amazing, to hear what's happening at Queens. It's all good. It's all good. And of course, we expected that, but it's good that it happened. And I know that at the time, the head of medicine was very supportive of dermatology. And I don't know if people appreciated it, but he was supportive in the sense that he wasn't just going to grab anybody and say, okay, here, you're the head of dermatology now. There are a lot of places used to see that in different specialties. I've seen that in obstetrics, I've seen in other places, and but no, the idea was really to get a quality program, which is great because it's a whole ecosystem of people there, even outside of dermatology, that make all of this happen. And you have to know that you can trust their commitment and their understanding of what you're doing and all these things. It's just I think it's a fantastic story. There'll be one time where people will just talk about it. Yeah, of course, Queens, yeah. And you go, no, but I built that. I built that house.
All started with Dr. Asai, who was the first dermatologist who came here and literally started with a phone on the floor in an empty office. She has laid all the foundations for dermatology at Queens, and it was all supported by the department head. And I was very lucky that I was offered the opportunity to come in later and help with some of the developments. So yeah, I'm really fond of Queens. And I must say we're very small, but we have quite a lot of things to offer. And we're quite a competent team, I would say, with our shared knowledge. And we have a good team spirit, something that I think is very important and helps improve everything.
Yeah, Yuka's amazing. And I think, her energy and her positivity it's always that. Anyway, no, but that's really great. I'm just so happy to hear that because, when you see somebody like Yuka, you just want to make sure that the vision of what they enjoy doing, that they'd have the environment where they can do that. And it's so nice that you've created that environment. That's really great. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up about what's happening at Queen's or?
Well, I'm very happy to be there, and I'm also really looking forward to all the upcoming opportunities and to see the division grow and develop over time. And I fondly think back to our first meeting in 2014.
Thank you. That was fun. That was a nice restaurant. We were upstairs in this restaurant. And I just remember I was so excited when you brought up your other slides, CTCL or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I had to leave because the speaker tour, the next stop, I believe, was Montreal. I had to leave to catch a very late plane. They packed me my dessert, and then the plane was delayed, and I ended up 2:00 at night in the Montreal hotel room, and I opened my dessert, and they had packed me a fork. It was like a real stainless steel fork that they had packed for me to enjoy my dessert. I believe I still have that fork. It always reminds me of that evening.
Don't take it on the airplane. Yeah, that's funny. Oh, that's great. So where else did you see it in the country? So you went to Montreal, you were in Toronto. Did you go anywhere else?
Yeah, I went to Quebec City, I went to Calgary, to Edmonton, to St. John, Halifax, and to Vancouver.
That's a great experience, especially if you're moving to a country, but also remember the first time I got years and years ago, he was at Mayo Clinic, but he won one of our clinical pharmacology awards and went around the country. And I was sitting down with him in a lab in Toronto, and he said, I know more about Canadian clinical pharmacology probably than any Canadian knows. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, I've been every place, spending a day or two in all these cities. And I thought, well, it's true, though, because we all do it differently. There's no single model. Everybody does it differently for whatever reason. And I did not realize that your travel was so broad. That is fantastic. Did you get to go to the World Congress when it was in Canada?
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I was in charge of the weather.
It was good weather. I remember that.
Thank you.
Really good weather.
I worked very hard on it. 7 days, 25 degrees every day and sunny. And I bet that's never happened before in the history of the universe to see that in Vancouver. It was nuts. Anyways, it was a good meeting. Thank you so much for this. And congratulations on the great success you've had so far. And boy, it looks like you've got a great trajectory. And I'm sure it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun. Clearly you enjoy it. And you've got a wonderful staff and all that support from the program and from the hospitals and et cetera. That's a great story. I'm just so happy for you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me today. I really enjoyed meeting you.
You're welcome. It's nice to do it this way, isn't it? You didn't have to make little cookies or anything like that. Anyways, thank you. It's nice to see you staying at home. People aren't going to see that, but it's nice to see you relaxing. I'm relaxing in my basement with a blurred background, like Vaseline on the screen. But anyways, thank you so much, Sonja. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.
Speak later. Take care. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this episode of Sheer Listening Pleasure, please do share it with your friends and colleagues. On our next episode, Neil will chat with another guest from the world of dermatology. To subscribe, go to www.derm.city or find the SLP podcast at Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Spotify, or, really, wherever you get your podcasts. The producer is Jeremy Visser. Research for this episode came from Cristela Tello Ruiz, John Evans, and Kylie Rebernick. Support for this podcast comes from Amgen Canada. Amgen Canada serves dermatology patients throughout Canada by delivering vital medicines to them. In addition, Amgen contributes to developing new therapies or new uses for existing medicines, in partnership with many of Canada's leading healthcare, academic, research, government, and patient organizations. Today, tens of thousands of Canadians use Amgen medicines every year. Learn more at www.amgen.ca. Send your comments to slp@chronicle.org. Until next time, be well.